are listening to the 10 Questions with the Musical Mind podcast with your host, Peter Harris.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of 10 Questions with the Musical Mind. This is Peter Harris, your host. For this episode, I'm very happy to bring the members of YYNOT, a fantastic progressive rock band. And specifically today we have founding guitarist, producer, writer Billy Alexander and bassist extraordinaire Tim Starace. Billy formed the group a few years ago, being inspired to write an instrumental encompassing some of the aspects of the lengthier Rush numbers, such as Hemispheres and 2112, etc. And he looked around for some people to help fill out the roster and get this piece of work done. Of course, he stumbled upon the phenomenal talents of Tim Starace, and the band is rounded out by members Rocky Cooner on vocals and Joel Stevenette on drums. Now, Tim and Billy join us today to discuss the forming of the group, the inspirations behind the members, what it took to coalesce this project, and at what point it became more than just a fun way of piecing together and playing some songs into a real band that has now produced 2 albums, their self-titled debut and the recent Resonance, and just what all makes them tick and what can we expect in the future. So I hope you enjoy this conversation with Billy Alexander and Tim Starace. Hey, Billy, how are you today? Thank you for joining us.
Hey, Peter, my pleasure. Thanks for having me. And if some of the other band members happen to chime in, I know it's kind of like touch and go here.
Oh, yeah, I know. We'll make it work. We'll make it work. The more the merrier.
Okay. Sounds good.
First of all, I want to congratulate you on Resonance. Fantastic work. I mean, I'm really, really excited about it. It's good. And I love your... I love your download price of $12.21. Nice little wink and a nod there, yeah.
Oh yeah, well, the wink and nods have been going on since the beginning, so why stop now,
Sure, absolutely. That's part of the fun of something like that.
Right.
Now, on some stuff like Bully comes across as a straight-ahead rocker kind of, but there's actually a lot of fairly intricate stuff going on musically. When you're writing, do you say, okay, I've got this many of this tempo, this many in this key, I need to do a faster paced number, or can you write like that? I mean, are you cognizant of that, or all what comes out comes out?
Yeah, I would say not really. What comes out comes out. Although there is sometimes it'll come up where if you're writing for a specific project or an album and you start noticing that you have a few too many tunes in the same kind of tempo or feel, you start thinking, boy, I probably need something else to kind of flesh this out as so there's some dynamics to it, different feels, attitudes, tempos, energy, that kind of thing. So yeah, it does pop in your head when you start getting songs together and you start realizing that, but it's not really the first order of thought process, or for me.
Right, I got you. That makes sense. Mm-hmm. Now I do love how you tend to throw chords in your soloing, and obviously Alex Lifeson did that some, but others like Vivian Campbell did that occasionally. But is that something that you consciously do at times, or is that just literally just something about the way you played and it's just evolves part of your technique? I mean, obviously it's a great way to throw in texture in a solo, but
well, I'd say first of all, with basically we're a 3-piece,
right?
So similar to trios and power trios and bands like Rush or whatever. When it comes to a solo section, there is a conscious effort to make sure it fills up some of the space. So there's that, but when it comes down to actually putting a solo together or doing it, it's actually a mixture of spontaneity and a little bit of thought and just whatever seems to be working. But and then throw in just tendencies that you have as your style of a guitarist. And I mean, I have a lot of influences, from everybody from a guy like Pete Townsend, who's very chordal with some of his leads and things like that. So I think it's really just a combination of those things when it happens. But yeah, there is in the back of my mind, there is the idea of needing to flesh out space and not just play for the sake of sort of noodling type solos. I want it to be something that interests me and something that the listener, every time they hear it, it's something that kind of sticks to your ribs and doesn't just fly past you like an improvised, burning solo,
Right. And your song Wildest Dreams is a good example of that. You go into a little sort of short melody, chordal, and then you actually throw a random chord and then a little tremolo work, whammy bar work right in the middle of it. But yeah, that's nice. When you first started off, I know you noticed Tim online, is that right? His fantastic bass covers.
Oh yeah.
When you guys first envisioned this online project, were you hoping from the get-go to evolve into an original band of material, or did this start off as, man, we could do some killer renditions, and then it just sort of evolved from that, or what was the initial goal?
Honestly, it was total accident.
Okay.
100% accident, and then just accidents kept on sort of happening, and then just it was like, well, if we're doing that, why don't we do this? So it just sort of like, there was never any plan, there was never any sort of vision. Now, as you start establishing some things and people start noticing and people start following you and things like that, then you sit back and you say, well, what should we do? How do we grow this? Should we grow this? Some of those decisions and ideas come about, but no, it's completely by accident. The whole story, I don't know if you know it, but it's out there for anybody who wants to look it up. But we completely stumbled onto it. The whole name for the song that I wrote, YYNOT, and the name itself was really just sort of a goof almost.
Right.
It wasn't anything that was thought out. And then when Tim and I started sort of bonding on the Rush and just as friends, and then we started doing these online Rush covers for fun, they started just taking off after we actually had done the original piece, YYNOT. So it really technically started from an original song, if you will, anyway. And then it's just gone from there and just kind of grown,
Yeah, and that's pretty neat. And yeah, so you're sort of, the name is just sort of still in place.
Right.
Now, I'm wondering, when you're writing the new stuff, was it were you writing original stuff when you brought Rocky on board, or did she come on board when you're still doing mostly the cover renditions? And the reason I ask is because I wonder if it added a new dimension once you were able to really hear her own unique phrasing and sense of phrasing and that kind of stuff. I mean...
Yeah, absolutely. Well, again, more sort of accidents. She was brought in at the beginning just to lend vocals to a Hemispheres video collaboration we did.
Yeah, started off easy.
Yeah, right. And she nailed it. She hadn't even heard it, and she just spent, I think, a couple days just learning it and came in and just knocked it out of the park. And I was singing some of the Rush songs in between because we weren't a band. It was just like, well, this is a little lower in range, something off signals. I'll try and sing it. The high stuff I'll give to Rocky. And then once it became apparent that we were going to start playing live and be an actual band, of course, it was like, well, now you are the 100% lead singer of this band. And then when I was writing more material, obviously her voice was in my head. And so that, and then as I've grown to know her personally and her vocal style and range, of course I write for that specifically. And that we kind of move a little bit out, sort of Rushisms. I wanted to kind of exploit a little bit more of her abilities, some of her R&B twists and things like that. And that goes for everybody in the band too. I want to just express more facets of what we have going on with our own styles and influences.
Right. But you said what's interesting is you discovered her when she was 19, but she was doing a cover of Highway Star, right? So, despite her age, she was not to jump on the latest trend. She was not like the Billie Eilish, who was Van Halen teenager. She obviously knew a lot of older acts and liked it.
She did.
Right.
She did. That's thanks to her parents, of course, just having that around the house and feeding it to her, and also for her of just soaking it up like a sponge and being interested.
Hey there!
Hey!
Sorry, there was an accident on 95 and my exit was shut off. So I had to take the long way around. Hey, everybody.
Hey, it's Tim. Tim, I'm afraid I got you on the bottom of the screen, but we can see about 3/4 of your face.
That's all you need.
Okay.
Need it all?
Hey, we're missing out on the epic beardness. I mean, you're right. Well, okay, let's jump into a question for Tim while he's joining there. Obviously, other than Geddy Lee, who were some of your original bass influences? Was it the sort of traditional, John Entwistle, all that kind of stuff, or who were you really into? Any surprises?
Gene Simmons.
Oh, okay.
That was the inception for me, and then it was Geddy Lee, and then of course I drifted off into the Steve Harris, the Glenn Hughes, much later on, Geezer Butler and stuff like that, Sabbath, and the standard rock metal bass player guys. I got into Stanley Clarke for a second and a half. And that stuff's too hard. Yeah.
Right.
Go back to Rush.
There's a lot of stuff like that. Of course, I try to educate myself early on. I got into Stanley Clarke and a lot of those guys, and it was more of a point okay, now I can appreciate that. Am I going to listen to 4 hours of it? No.
Right,
but,
yeah.
Yeah.
I remember getting a Guitar Player magazine. There was remember those little vinyl pages that were records?
Oh, yeah,
right?
yeah.
And School Days was there.
Yeah.
And I put it on my record player, and I tried it twice, and then it went away. I could listen to it a little bit, but yeah.
They were actually still doing that fairly late in the 80s.
Yeah?
It seems like, and I'm just going off memory because I hadn't thought about that in years, but it seems like maybe they even had one for Vinnie Moore or something, which would have been 87 or so. It seems kind of late to have a
Steve Vai Attitude song.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Bam.
That was my favorite one of those.
Okay. I don't remember that one being on the vinyl thing, but yeah. Huh.
Look it up.
Oh, I remember that, Billy.
Yeah.
My absolute favorite little record thing that came in any magazine was in a Mad magazine. So that's another story.
That's for you guys' next album. You can cover that, right? Right. Yeah, speaking of which, if you're ever going to include any Rush material, on an album, in addition to the original stuff, you've got to do Great White North at some point, right?
Absolutely, yeah. We were just going into the studio tomorrow on that, right, Billy?
Yeah,
right. Do all the stuff that, only the diehards even know. Just do Great White North and Battle Scar by Max Webster and just the most random
Battle
things.
Scar's pretty neat.
Oh, it is. It totally is.
Yeah. I still ask myself why I bought that Doug McKenzie album.
Oh, you bought it?
I actually bought that album.
My condolences.
Yeah.
It does. We don't even think about how good we've got it now. The amount of money I spent in the 80s and the 90s of just buying an album or a CD, I hope this is good. Nope. There's $15 out the window. And just, I had hundreds of CDs with one good song or no good songs. Now I'll talk about the rest of the group. Drummers. How did you find Joel? And I ask this mainly because obviously you have a circle of friends probably that are musicians, but getting a drummer for a group like yours, you can't go pick out the local drummer in a Green Day cover band and say, let's play 2112 and By Toward the Snow Dog. And not to mention, they have to have the ability, but they also have to have a kit worthy of reproducing some of that stuff. They can't do that on a 4-piece. So where did you find him?
That was another accident.
Okay.
You might say, or twist of fate, whatever. But I had seen Joel's tribute to Neil Peart video that had floated around on some of the Rush Facebook groups. Mm-hmm. And I had obviously seen it. And at the time, we had another drummer. But, it was impressive, of course. But what happened was when we were in need for a new drummer, actually somebody, and I don't remember who it was, made a comment in one of the groups and mentioned my name and Joel's name. I didn't even know Joel's name. I just, in the back of my mind, I remembered some guy doing an awesome, Peart tribute. And that's when I saw his name in that comment along with mine. And I clicked on him and I was like, oh, well, that's that guy that did that. And I was like, well, okay. So I think I immediately friended him and private messaged him, and he responded back and said, "Hey, I totally love you guys. I'm aware of you guys. I need to see you play live sometime." And I said, "Well, actually, would you be available for a call?" And he said, "Yes. Here's my number. Call me sometime." And then there you have it. So
funny, yeah.
That was really how that happened.
I want to go more, of course, circle back around to your original stuff, but I've got a question for you guys, especially you, Billy, as being already an accomplished sort of producer and knowing your way around. When you guys first started covering some of the Rush stuff, did it turn into, as you get into this and doing it authentically, were you stumbling upon things like, oh crap, we need crow towels for this song, or we need, only a tape echo is going to sound good on this effect, or that kind of, because there's a lot of stuff that you might not necessarily think of, but once you're trying to actually faithfully record it, you're like, ooh, I really need this. Like Tim, your pedals and stuff. Did you stumble upon a lot of stuff like that? Where you're like, oh shit, I need to get some of this.
Yeah, we did. We definitely did. Well, and also, we sort of painted ourselves into a corner in a way, because the whole idea was, well, let's accurately, or at least try to accurately recreate these in this live, quote unquote, studio video collaboration. And so once you're right, once you start peeling back the layers, you realize, oh geez, we're gonna need the gong sound for Cygnus X1, or we're gonna need this, or I gotta search through my a billion synth sounds to find something that accurately sounds like the wiggly Moog part in something from 1978 or 77. So yeah, we definitely did go through that, and in a way it was fun though, obviously, because when you're piecing it together, you kind of hear it back, you're like, it actually sounds pretty close.
Yeah,
it's not too bad.
Yeah, it does, and I'm sure that is fun.
Yeah, we knew that Tim, obviously, with his sound and chops and understanding of that music, and myself as well, and luckily all of us, we just had sort of a penchant or a knack for kind of, I guess, capturing that spirit, if you will, beyond just playing the parts and the notes.
Right, yeah, and you guys both have a good ability to throw in some of your own lines and some of those covers where it's very appropriate. It doesn't sound like all of a sudden Tim's doing something off base here that's not part of the song. Your fills are exactly in the spirit of it, but it's not what was on the album, which I like that. Now, how come? Go ahead.
A lot of the stuff is actually picked and pulled from little live bits that I've heard.
Oh, okay.
Same way. Oh, yeah. Because if you listen to Billy posted a live show from 1975, and if you listen to some of those live shows, after 200 plus dates a year with these guys, the songs morphed into these really cool little things between Geddy and Neil.
Right.
These really cool little awesome things that just aren't on the album sometimes. So we like to try to do that too.
Right. Yeah. That's always. Yeah. You're right. The now that I think about it, one really obvious example I think is on Xanadu from Egg Stage Left. Geddy doesn't do that static bass line on the live version. He dances around it a little bit. If you know what I'm talking about. Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Now recently you did a By Tour live. And during that busy part and the instrumental part, you didn't think to have Rocky just stay on stage and just go,
maybe.
Well, you know.
Yeah, there you go.
Come to the next show. You never
Maybe
know.
we can get her a guitar with a wah-wah and a big muff. Just
right. Right. You don't need to know how to play it. Just grind on that low E and just
yeah, right. Or was it a bass and a big muff? It was something.
I think it's a bass. It sounds like the thickness of a bass string in it. Yeah. But now, Billy, do you stockpile lyric ideas when you're writing the music, or are you the type that you have to write the music out first and go, okay, what is this? What kind of a mood does this evoke for me, or how do you approach that?
Always different.
Okay.
It's always different, but I do sometimes collect song titles or song ideas, like because I want to write about something that I care about or I find is interesting, not necessarily just a book I'm reading about witches and wizards or something. I tend to write more about like just real things or things that just mean something to me, and might be relatable to someone else, hopefully. But I don't really do that. And musically, sometimes I will, obviously, if I get a musical idea, I'll document it just like most people do, and there'll be something laying around, and then I'll go through, and sometimes I might kind of go, well, that one's pretty strong. Maybe I'll start building on that, and then from there I might start just get what is this riff telling me? It's got attitude. Okay, well that might be and some of it just happens spontaneously, where you just like you get into a flow, and then boom, next thing you know, you're like, I think this is like a song that's, you almost feel like it already exists. You just need to flesh it out.
Yeah, that makes sense. Now, the two of you do what kind of a growth or change do you guys sense from your first album to Resonance, the new one, or any?
I didn't write. Billy writes it, but the way I see it is, and he's touched on that before, is that the first album was kind of like a bunch of separate songs. Mm-hmm. As we kept putting them together, became an album. I feel a real sense of flow with Resonance.
That makes sense.
Everything sounds, like it's an album. Billy could explain more on that.
Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, that's because that's also how it went down.
Absolutely.
That was the idea of it, and then that's how it just built on itself. It's really sort of one offering of 4 people all on the same page, and the songs just being, some of them even kind of like mirroring back to each other a little bit, some themes kind of reappearing and things like that.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I just wanted to get your take on it. The first instrumental, YYNOT, was excellent, but going back and listening to that now and listening to the new stuff, it almost sounds like at this point now you're writing music knowing how Tim plays and knowing how Rocky's gonna her cadence vocally, and it just seems to gel so much better because it's almost written with them in mind. Where YYNOT was excellent, but you could tell that it was like, here's some ideas I think are neat, and Tim's going, here's a cool bass line for this, and it's awesome, but it didn't have the experience of hindsight and intimate knowledge of each other's playing styles. Where this one you can tell it's there more. Yeah,
it's fair to say.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
A lot of musicians say that they have influences that other people don't pick up on. Do you, either one of you have, things you say like, you play on stage like, oh, I'm so clearly ripping off, Jaco Pastorius on that line or whoever, and people go, man, Tim, that's so you. You know what I'm saying? Do either of you have like influences you think are obvious, but the audience just doesn't pick up on it much?
Well, I feel like I'm ripping off Billy Alexander all the time.
Yeah, but it's done with love.
Right.
Yeah, but it's done with love. He lets me. No, I really don't think that. I mean, I have an influence from other bass players, but I really don't think that, the stuff that, I wind up doing and adding and stuff like that is really like, hey, let me cop this riff from this song, or I don't see it, man. It just how my soul comes out of the end of my fingers.
Right.
It's just what I do. And, most of the time I'm trying to, if I add any stuff and go out there and do something, I'm trying to be very aware of like the kick and the vocals, and stuff like that, So I don't know. I think I just play how I play, when I'm doing my own thing, and
that's a good thing. I mean, yeah.
I don't know if it, we have people all the time going, "Oh, that sounds just like so and so," and we've never heard that before,
right?
Yeah,
that's true.
It's a good thing, right?
Yeah, like
unintended familiarity, that somebody else can feel through it,
Yeah, because I'll play and sometimes people are like, "Oh, that sounds god awful." I'm like, "Oh, I don't know them." No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I've got a random question for you guys. I'm sure I could look it up. And I hate asking this online because Rush fans are going to crucify me. And I've been a huge Rush fan my whole life. On Red Barchetta, this is a lyric question, so maybe it's better for Rocky. But when suddenly ahead of me across the mountainside, is it a gleaming alloy air car, a gleaming yellow air car? What the hell is it? I've never heard somebody saying.
I think it's alloy.
Okay.
Yeah, alloy. Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've always, because I've been like, I've been listening to him for damn 35 years. I can't tell what the hell he's saying there.
Yeah, well, that's alloy.
Okay. See, one of life's mysteries solved for me. Thank you, guys.
Yeah.
Billy, I want to make sure everybody knows where to find you guys. What's the best place as far as your website, social media you're most active on, live dates, make sure we can get the new album Resonance. What's the best place to track you guys down and keep up with current events?
Well, YYNOTband.com that's sort of the hub for all things YYNOT. Most of the shows are listed there. The store is there with all the swag. We'd like to send people there for the CDs, the signed stuff, even the MP3s, WAV files, all that stuff. Because first of all, we like to see that you're stopping by, so it's almost like, hey, thanks for stopping by. You go off to an Amazon or something like that, of course, that's great, but it's also they take their cut and
sure.
That whole deal. But that's where if you want to check out the music, there's video links there, there's press kits there. Of course, follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and subscribe to us on the YouTube channel. On the YouTube channel, there's plenty of videos that we do.
Mm-hmm.
So we're definitely not hiding ourselves online. That's for sure.
No.
YYNOTband.com.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, I want to thank you guys for stopping by. It's been a treat, and I'm a fan. I'm looking forward to hopefully I can catch you guys live at some point. But absolutely. Well, cool. Thanks again, and we'll be in touch soon.
All right, and happy holidays.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. Happy holidays, Merry Christmas, everything. Yeah.
Eat a lot and have fun.
Oh, okay. I will. You too.
Bye, guys.